What are the keys to successful storytelling? How do we tell great stories, and what are the things that you need to know as a storyteller to improve what you do? There are core elements that have been known for a long, long time throughout history, and as we develop new ways to tell stories, new technologies, new mediums, we need to adapt these principles and bring them forward into these new mediums. And different mediums have different rules. Today we're going to be talking about the video space and live video and post-production video and how to tell better stories with those. Joining me today will be our special guest, Michael Shu from StoryandHeart.com. And I'm excited to have him on for this interview. We'll be back just after the show opener and have some news and announcements on Wirecast Live for you. Just a moment. And then after that, we'll be having a special learning session all about how to create your own awesome-looking thumbnails for your live videos. So stick around. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Imry Halevi, and we're coming at you live from Northern California in lovely Nevada City. And we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope, so you can tune on any one of those platforms. If you're curious, please leave us a comment or tweet at us with the hashtag hashtag WirecastLive, and we'll be happy to throw those up on the screen. We have a great show for you today. I'm super excited to bring on a special guest from StoryandHeart.com, Michael Shu. We will be bringing him on in just a moment to talk about the keys to successful storytelling and what you need to know to be a better storyteller and a better filmmaker. And Michael is definitely one of the men to talk to about this because he has a lot of experience in that space. He also is the director for educational content. The head of production for educational content at Story and Heart. So we'll be talking to him not just about the sort of craft of storytelling, but also some of the technical aspects and how to better improve as a storyteller technically. So that'll be fun. But we do, before we get started, have some news and announcements. If you're new to the show, if you've never seen us before, you've never seen Wirecast Live, this is a weekly show we do here at Telestream every Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. And we stream live on Facebook about topics like this: live streaming, live video, storytelling, video, post-production, all those things. We bring on content experts, subject matter experts to talk about things that we wouldn't necessarily be able to talk to about ourselves because we can't know everything, much as we might like to. And we try to bring you valuable tips and tricks as well as really interesting content for you to improve with anything related to live video and live video streaming. So hopefully this will be useful. If you haven't caught our last episodes, you can check those out. We have an archive at our Wirecast Tube channel. You can subscribe on any social media channel that you like, either through Twitter, through Facebook, or through YouTube. So please check it out. We have lots of episodes if you want us. Every week we are here live, and so follow us in whatever way works best for you. But definitely go hit that subscribe or that like button or share it out if it's something that you will find valuable. And we hope to see you back here each week on Thursdays. All right, with that aside, we have a few announcements I'd like to make before we get the show going. Upcoming events, upcoming news. We are going to be at NAB 2017 starting the week of April 24th. And we are definitely going to be having a big booth. You can come by. I'll be there. A lot of the Telestream folks will be there. We'll be talking about some of our products. We have some new exciting announcements, particularly in our live streaming side and our Wirecast side. Some cool stuff. Definitely going to want to check it out if you're in the area. Again, that's booth number South Lower 3316. And, you should definitely stop by. If you, and by the way, because we're going to be out at NAB that week, there probably will not be a Wirecast Live show. If we can go live from the show floor, internet allowing, it's always a little bit difficult with those live shows, we will, but otherwise we'll probably have an off week that week. So that Thursday, you can take a break unless we can actually get a little show out live from the floor. Next week on this show, our last show before we go head off to NAB, on April 20th is going to be Imry Halevi from Harvard Athletics. how does Harvard Athletics stream their live sports? I'm really excited. Imry is one of the most experienced live production individuals out there working every day, and he has a ton of tips and tricks, particularly around sports filming, higher education streaming, a lot of stuff that I really want to unpack with him. I'm excited to interview him when he comes on the show. And finally, if you can't get enough or you need more content and more teaching material on how to be a better live streamer, and particularly how to be a better Facebook live streamer, we have an ebook coming out. You should head over to www.telestream.net/Mari. That's M-A-R-I. So telestream.net/Mari, M-A-R-I, to sign up and get that ebook when it's available. We are working on it very hard right now. The outline is coming along quite well, and we're going to be just getting it out to you as soon as it's ready. In fact, we'll be giving you sneak peeks of the content as well as the first chapter. So that's a great way to get on the email list and get signed up for that book. I think you're really going to like it. It's the 2017 Ultimate Guide to Facebook Live Streaming. So those are my news announcements for the show. I'd like to head into our interviews portion of the show and unpack how to tell better stories. What are the keys to successful storytelling with our special guest, Michael Shu, the head of production for educational content from StoryandHeart.com. So, Michael, you should still be there. Are you joining us live on Skype through our new tech talk show machine from Southern California? Are you there?
I am here. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hey, welcome. So glad you could join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And I love the yellow background. That's one of my favorite guest backgrounds that we've had.
Thank you. That's the Story and Heart yellow.
It's very nice yellow. I do like yellow. All right, Michael. So for those who don't know what Story and Heart is, for those who may not know who you are, can you tell us first, let's start with a little bit of your background. Who are you? How did you get into video production? What's your background and training? And then we'll go on and talk about Story and Heart.
Kind of a long story, but let's shorten it a little. Started in 7th grade and made films throughout high school. Won a couple awards as a director, but actually dived into learning psychology for college with a film minor at USC, and came out and became an event cameraman because that's the easiest to get into, and then really got into wedding filmmaking. And from there, I met a lot of great filmmakers that segued from wedding filmmaking into the commercial realm. And then from there, I started to also get into the commercial realm and started to get into education as well. I taught at New York Film Academy, and I also did some of my own blogs, try to review and teach about gear and make it fun. It was on the Onyx Cinema blog before, and then Story and Heart hit me up and said, would you love to create some content for Story and Heart? And Story and Heart is like a filmmaking community that helps people become better storytellers. It is both a stock footage platform in which you could get the footage necessary in order to add to your film that you don't want to maybe ship yourself off to Thailand or something in order to get just a couple of shots. And also what I focus on is the Academy, in which it's a bunch of resources to better your skills as a storyteller, both on the technical end and also on the more conceptual end, as well as the business end as well, which is very important for being a professional filmmaker. So it's you could license footage and learn how to be a better filmmaker, and maybe eventually also put your footage on the platform as well with the awesome footage that you guys capture. So that's kind of like the kind of bullet points of Story and Heart, but we are a great community in which a lot of people are on there to help each other out.
Yeah, that's great. Like, one of the things I like about Story and Heart, since I learned about it, is that it provides all the prongs that a budding filmmaker might want. It not only provides the education and teaching pieces of it, it provides the community aspects of it, and it also provides the resources from stock footage and things like that. So it's giving you not only the tools, then teaching you how to use them, but then connecting you with other people who are using those tools and learning them. So it's really an entire package, and I think that's a really smart way to set up a site like this.
Yeah, and in the education side, there's a lot that we do. And just to give you a quick sampling, a lot of us budding filmmakers, either we're starting from students and segueing into being professional, or just starting from hobbyist and starting to be hired out. We tend to be like team of one. And we decided to create a class all about being a team of one filmmaker. And this is just a sampling of what tutorials we create. And so can you roll the trailer for the team of one filmmaking class, please?
Yeah, you provided this for us. This, guys, is actually one of the most popular classes. So in case you're wondering what Story and Heart's offering, as Michael's saying, this is one of the things that they offer, because as you know, if you're starting out on this, like, you kind of need to be a team of one. So it teaches you everything you need to know as a beginning producer. So I'm gonna roll this, and then we'll be back to talk about it.
You handle it all.
Hey, Tom.
The business,
How's it going?
the pitches, and the client relations.
The pre-production, production, and post-production.
The time management, stress, and self-motivation.
You are a team of one, but that doesn't mean you have to be on your own island and figure everything out on your own. Join the Academy of Storytellers as we embark on a filmmaking course designed to help you create amazing films as a team of one.
You'll go on set with Emmy Award-winning filmmakers Ray Sang and Justin Demers.
Hey there, Justin and Ray again from Story and Heart.
As they share their tips, tricks, and secrets on all aspects of solo filmmaking.
Individual lessons walk you through the entire filmmaking process, pre-production to post-production, from the perspective of a team of one filmmaker. We are excited to share everything we know with you in this team of one filmmaking course.
Once you complete the course, you'll have the knowledge you need to confidently tackle all aspects of filmmaking and running a business as a solo creative.
That's cool. Yeah, so I mean, it's clear, like, that you guys put a lot of thought into these sort of courses, and then the trailers that you make for the courses to get people sort of excited and teach them what they're about. Like, I love not only, I mean, that you're showing the craft of filmmaking, but you're actually using the craft of filmmaking to show the craft of filmmaking. And you know, the shots are always really great. You've got good editing. Like, it's just everything's coming together, and you can see that not only are you going to learn a lot, but the people who are teaching you know a lot and will have a lot to tell you.
Yeah, and it's important that us as filmmakers, our staff are filmmakers. I'm a filmmaker, and I don't sign myself as corporate head of production. And we're all filmmakers, and we're here together as a community in order to teach the art of filmmaking. It's no secret. We shouldn't like keep in like, oh, you know, I have all the secrets of filmmaking, and I'm keeping it for myself to be competitive. No, we share it and we grow together. And one special thing that we want to make sure that we do is that we bring in other filmmakers. So it's not just us talking from our perspective, but there are many other filmmakers, you know, experienced, like Joe Simon, like Ray Tang, as you saw in the trailer, 31 Films, and many, many others. We all get their perspectives, get their area of expertise. So it's not just us filming. It's not just us like pretending that we're the end all and be all of, you know, of teachers for filmmaking. We all have our area of expertise, and that's why we bring everybody together in order to share with the community how to be a better storyteller, both technically and you know, story-wise. And that was my good friend Ray Tang there. He's actually the leader of Only Today and making some great things from Portland, Oregon. So and also, like, in terms of telling about the aspects of making a story, that's a lot of that I learned from Still Motion, Patrick Moreau from Still Motion, who also teaches through Muse. So it's so many great people, so many experts in the field coming together. So there's pretty much no limit in terms of perspectives that you get. It's really like an actual academy. If it was
cool.
just me, it would be very boring.
I think that's great, is that you go out and you find other teachers, you find other instructors, people with special expertises, and bring them in to, you know, give their unique take. I'm actually going to show folks what the website looks like, so you can kind of get an idea of how they've organized storyandheart.com. If you're curious, it's really easy to sign up, check it out, and get a free account, and you can kind of see what they're doing. But right here, I've just signed in, and you can see that this is the stock footage area. You know, you can select stock footage and look through what is offering. There's amazing stock footage that has been produced by other Academy members, other Story and Heart members, for download. The other thing, then, I think we're kind of focusing on here is the Academy, right? So this is the learning area, and you can see what classes are available. And I think there's super really valuable ones. Like I was even thinking of taking some of these myself, like the keys to being conducting great interviews, right? Like I do that every week. So I'm actually thinking of taking that one and some of the other ones. So it's pretty cool. And we're also going to be focusing a little bit about this one, the storytelling fundamentals. Michael's going to be giving us a little bit of a preview of some of the keys there, and to help us get an idea of how to be better storytellers. But it's just such a cool website. I love the design. I love the content. I mean, it just delivers on every level, Michael. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, and we're constantly improving it as well. We'll be updating it to make it even easier for filmmakers in order to find the path that they want as well. So we expect great things for it. We also do live workshops in which, if we have time to talk about that right now, it's essentially we bring the filmmakers that teach like none live, or pre-recorded. You see that they're very well produced, very scripted courses in order to guide you through all the steps. But if you want something a little bit more, hands-on and interactive with filmmakers, ask them questions and stuff, we offer something called Together workshops. And we just started in the last year, and it was a little daunting at first because we were like, okay, let's stream to 700 ticket holders on the internet, as well as maybe 50 in-person live learners. And it's like, Michael, go to town. I'm like, and then I had to learn live streaming from there. And thankfully, with Wirecast, Telestream has been such a great help in terms of making that a success for our most recent workshop, which is the 31 Films wedding workshop for wedding filmmakers. So we have a really quick clip from that here, a quick trailer, if you don't mind
let's
rolling
roll
that.
that real fast, because I think it's cool that not only are you doing in-person stuff, but you can also combine that with the online piece that you guys already have a lot of familiarity with. So let's check this out. This is the 31 Films workshop on how to be a wedding filmmaker, right?
Hey, I'm Joey, and this is Aaron, and we're from 31 Films. Are you a wedding filmmaker that wants to build a sustainable business, find clients that love you, all while doing work that you're proud of? Then this workshop is for you.
We've been doing weddings for 15 years, and in that time, we've learned a lot of valuable lessons.
And we're excited to share these lessons in this wedding filmmaking workshop.
If there's a lot of energy and excitement and the camera is in the party and the camera's moving and it's whipping around and people are jumping, some people would say, oh, handheld, man, that's like shaky and unprofessional, but really it helps tell that story. It helps the couple relive those moments.
Having a shot list and having a wish list. We are reactionary, but at the same time, we go in like first shooter and second shooter, we know what we need to get. Sure, sunset's beautiful and the couple is like loving it, but I know toast happened in 10 minutes and I don't have an audio feed. I have to have an audio feed.
Once the couple kisses, they're all hugging, high-fiving, the parents are like, you did it. Those are some of the best, real, authentic, emotional moments.
The irony for us is like, once we raised our prices, we started booking more.
If you build your business net worth, it will grow your own, it will grow your employees, it will create sustainability. And so I started thinking about my business as the number one, and I wasn't the number one.
I'd say like in the process, especially if you're like a solo filmmaker, if there's anything you're going to outsource, like don't let it be this part of the process. This is the part that is integral to your brand. Like this is what's going to represent what your stories are like.
Join us at togetherworkshops.com.
All right, cool. So that is a sort of a taste of like a very high level workshop that you can take from some of the best in the business, right? Like you can see just from the content and the shots that they had that those guys know what they're doing when it comes to wedding photography and filmmaking and videography. That's so cool.
Yeah, they make some amazing stuff, and but you guys could learn how to make the same quality of stuff too. It's and those guys are so sweet. They are so sharing, and just go on Facebook, talk to them, ask questions and stuff. As I said, is no secret. But enough shameless plugging. I'm really excited to talk about telling stories and the pieces of a story and what make an awesome story.
Yeah. I think that's obviously what people are tuning in here for today, and obviously the whole point of this was to show them that we're not going to get everything here and you can learn a lot more at Story and Heart through the courses and things like that. That is part of what the mission of the, your site is for and why it was created. But that being said, when we talk about stories, it's interesting to note that we just saw some examples there. Like one guy was shooting a vodka commercial in a trailer, and the other guys were shooting wedding events, and they're both telling stories, but for very different purposes, very different kinds of stories. And you can see that the sort of the word story can apply in so many different situations with different end goals in mind. So why don't we start with, we'll keep that in mind as we go through this discussion, and focus on the keys to successful storytelling. So as I showed in the sort of the preview of your site, there is a course that you guys offer called the 4 Pillars of Story. It looks like a great course. I haven't taken it myself, but can you talk about that course and a little bit about what are the 4 pillars of story? What do you guys mean when you say that?
Well, the 4 pillars of story are kind of the core essential elements of a story that were created by Still Motion's Patrick Moreau, a friend of mine, and he's extremely talented. He also took psychology as a major in school and then dived into film, and he breaks it down so well. And he's been dissecting story, and what he discovered was that a lot of people miss many important parts of stories when they tell like a commercial or a wedding film, documentaries and such. And he broke it down in a way in which you could follow the telling of a story without missing those very important elements. And he broke it down into 4 main pillars, and they're the 4 P's. P for Patrick, I guess, named after himself, you could say. But people, places, plot, and purpose. So it may seem a little overly simple, but it actually it's some really important backbone to stories. People are the characters in your story. It's what your audience connects to. That one is pretty obvious. But then we come to places. It's where your story lives, where the environments are. And we'll get more into detail into each of these, what each of these, how they play. And then plot is your story structure. It's a beginning, middle, and end, and a conflict, and a purpose. And this one is, something that is easily forgotten, is what your story says to the viewer and what you want them to take away from the story, most importantly. Some people just, create something to be cool. It's like, it looks cool, it's great, but they forget about the purpose. A good story needs to have a purpose, what you're communicating, and storytelling is communication, and and sometimes people just focus on a couple of these 4 P's, and sometimes within the 4 P's, they default to going for the most obvious representation, of each of the pillars. And that's what I want to get a little bit more in depth about with the pillars.
Yeah, so that's great. So we've got people as your first one; those are your characters. You got places. Where does the story take place? Where's the setting for the story? That can make a big difference in the details. The plot, what's happening there, and that's where you talk about the traditional, 3-act structure. The beginning, middle, end, or and then with rising conflict. And we'll talk a little bit more about conflict in story. And then the final one, just to reiterate, is purpose. What is the whole point of this, right? If we go to watch a movie and we just leave being like, well, that was whatever, you've kind of failed as a storyteller a little bit, or at least failed in one of the piece. I think that's a great, simple breakdown of the key elements. I couldn't think of another thing to add to that. So that's wonderful. So why don't you talk a little bit more about diving in depth on those into the areas you want to speak to?
Absolutely. So let's start with the first P, which is people. So you have to have characters. Every film has a character to relate to. Every film has someone you need to get emotionally connected to. And some people, forget this pillar and they don't think about the human connection, and we don't care about the characters.
And to be clear, it doesn't have to be a person, right? It could be Wall-E the robot. It could be a,
Exactly.
Journey, the Incredible Journey or whatever. So yeah,
Yes.
okay,
It could be a dog,
yeah,
you know, it could be in a documentary, it could be one of the animals, you know, in Discovery Channel. You know, we don't want him to die. You know, we want him to be able to, you know, find sustenance for his family or whatever like that. You know, like the March of the Penguins.
hmm
Gosh, you emotionally connect to them, and they're not
yeah,
humans.
yeah.
You know? Yeah, and what's important when developing your characters, whether it's for a documentary, a commercial, narrative film, is that you build desire. They have to have something that they want. You know, they can't just be there and not have anything that they want throughout the course of the movie, because that's would lead into the plot, which is the conflict. There has to be some desire that is being barred or have obstacles to overcome to get to, and that's how you could emotionally connect to them as far as story structure goes. And what's also important is that not only do you make them relatable, so that people could look at them and see their story unfold and kind of see a bit of themselves
hmm
in there, but also you have to make them unique, because you know, if they're just, there's nothing unique about them, that there could be just Joe Schmo off the street, and you don't develop them at all to show their uniqueness, then there's nothing to really latch onto. And the characters that I know that I love the most have, you know, little quirks to them. You see their ticks, you see their strengths and weaknesses. And I think what, for me at least, and this is more of a personal thing, the characters I connect to the most have flaws,
hmm
you know, and that's the uniqueness behind them for me. It's not just their strengths. You know, there's a superhero with strengths, but then there's the superhero with flaws too. And then that can also connect to, you know, the conflict, the
Right,
desire.
right.
Maybe their flaws are the obstacle to their desires as well. So you can't forget that when it comes to your people.
That makes a lot of
And
sense.
yeah, and moving on to the other P is places where your story lives. And some people just go for the straightforward, obvious as, hey, it's going to be in their apartment. Oh yeah, they're going shopping or something. And but the people have to remember that the places, the locations are very much symbols, and you can't think of them as just like, oh, you know, we just find any location and just, you know, that stuff has to happen somewhere, right?
Right.
No, but the locations have to be very integral to the story, because it also kind of sets the mood, sets the tone as well. And
Yeah, I mean, filmmakers will and storytellers will often refer to the location as the fourth, the final character of the film. Like they almost like
mhm.
personify locations.
Exactly. Yeah, and have the locations have almost a character and personality of their own, and it's all makes it so much more, you know, engaging that way, and especially when it interacts with your people, and the conflict that they're going through, it makes it all the more engaging, and it sucks us into that world. One of the mistakes people filmmakers do, is just go also, you know, for the most obvious. And for example, let's go into a wedding film, and when we start showing images, we just show the absolute obvious in terms of like, okay, there's a reception area, there's, you know, the prep where the bride is getting her makeup done, and just stick with that. But what about thinking outside the box? And it's also about like creating something unique to your story. It's uniqueness to your characters also goes with your locations as well. Well, what happens if we start looking around the story even more and mapping out, you know, like what happens in the story in an actual person's day that leads up to the events, the key events of the story?
hmm
Did the groom maybe go to a pizza parlor to have a snack with his groomsmen before? Maybe he, you know, gets a snack and gives it to his bride. And a lot of people are like, I'm not going to film people eating, but maybe that's something important to the story. Maybe that's them, you know, as foodies. That's
Right.
maybe that's a symbol
Well, I
of
remember
like
one
pizza loving.
one wedding video that I watched, and I've done a few wedding videos myself, and yeah, there's where the bride and groom before the ceremony went and got like Big Macs at McDonald's. Like they were in like their full tuxedos. They were like totally decked out, but it's because like that was their tradition as a couple. They loved McDonald's, I guess. And so they would go get this like fast food burger. And it's so funny because it's in the wedding video and you're kind of like, why would you ever want to film at McDonald's? Like, what are you gonna, but it brought out who they were as people and as a couple. And it did it a lot better. And of course they worked out all the time too. They were like super fit, but they were like eating at McDonald's. It was so funny.
Yeah. That's a juxtaposition, the uniqueness, and how the location brings out the uniqueness. Absolutely. And you just have to think outside the box, because you know, the more obvious everything is, including places and locations, it's just like, okay, I'm just looking at it, I'm just looking at normal life. I'm not looking at a story that's engaging me, you know.
Makes sense. If you're doing 50 wedding videos in a year, you could make them all look very much the same, right? Because there are a lot of similarities between weddings. There's all, you know, for the most part, they have a formula to them. But if you were only focusing on the things that were the same, all your videos would look the same, and none of your stories, your characters, your people in the videos, the couples would find, you know, would differentiate themselves from each other, and you wouldn't pull out what's really special to them. And then that would keep you kind of at this middle level when you could be rising above and telling a better story, right?
Yeah, and as far as like things that all start looking the same after a little while, let's take a look at romantic comedies and narrative. You know, sometimes it's just so expected. And me and my wife just sit down and go like, "Oh, I knew that's going to happen. Oh, I know that's going to happen." You know, it's just getting out of what is expected and obvious is so important in terms of location and character and such. You know, just so many like stereotypes. You know, and I know it's definitely hard because so many stories have been told. There's only so many stories types to tell, but it's those little things that you just have to think about. And it comes down to listening as well. If you're a documentary filmmaker, listening to what makes your character unique and the locations that they live in unique, you know, and focusing on that. And in narrative filmmaking, really, really digging deep while you're developing your characters as well, and how you can symbolize things about the character through the locations. And
cool.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very good advice. No. So I want to keep talking about this, but I also want to be cognizant that we have more to talk about, more to get through. So maybe just quickly go through the last two Ps, and then we'll move on to conflict.
Absolutely. Okay, so storytelling, actually, we're going straight into conflict now, because story structure, which is the plot, is essentially the conflict. You can't have any story structure without some sort of conflict. And I'm just going to say what a story structure usually is, because sometimes people forget the obvious. There's a beginning, a middle, and an ending, right? And there are dozens of books that I've read on story structure, and everybody, you know, talks about the 3-act structure. The beginning is kind of considered the hook, in which people have to have a reason to keep watching. That's where you introduce your character, introduce their desire, and actually ask a question that the viewer wants to see the answer of. And this doesn't have to be a literal question, but it does lead to, it is part of the conflict, you know? And that question could be like, well, are they gonna, for example, find who they're looking for? Are they gonna find their long lost brother or something? Or, are they gonna make it in time? You can even do it in wedding films. Like, you could create suspense through conflict. It's like, are they gonna learn the steps of their first dance, in which they're like so ornately choreographing in time? Are things gonna go right? That sort of thing. And the conflict, as we said before, is that barrier. And then everything in the middle of your film should build upon that. It's all building up on that same theme of conflict. You could throw more in their way. You can't like resolve a big chunk of that conflict in the middle, or else there's no payoff with the climax, which leads into the ending. There's no punch. And you have to resolve that conflict in a very a satisfying way, hopefully. And I think a lot of filmmakers sometimes forget how to do this. And you sometimes watch movies in which there's a big question in the beginning and you're like really engrossed. And then something happens in the middle that makes you stop caring because it's like, well, the stakes are lower now. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
so why am I continuing to watch? And that part is so maintaining that conflict, building upon it is so key, and building also with getting to know your characters more, getting to know their desire more as well. So you can see how these are all interwoven together.
Right.
But I'll really briefly go through the last P, which is plot. And and we mentioned before that you have to have a purpose for the film. But let's take a look at it contextually. For example, let's say a commercial, and it's so easy to just kind of phone it in when you're putting together a concept for a commercial and not really hit a very strong purpose for the commercial beyond like, hey, let's sell some stuff.
Right.
Right. You got to get people to want to buy it, instead of just going like, hey, here. And it's not about listing a bunch of bullet points. It's like, this is why you should buy it. It's because of this feature, that feature, this feature, that feature. But we see plenty of commercials like that, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we do a lot. And some are better
absolutely.
than others, and some you remember more. And generally, the ones with relatable characters and interesting situations tend to stick out in our minds better. Everybody has some commercials that they're like, I liked that commercial. That was a great commercial. And I think that's when
Absolutely.
the storyteller's doing their job.
Yeah, and I know we don't have that much time, so I'll just kind of summarize this. Like, you have to have that purpose, and everything else, all the three other P's, have to come from there. And that purpose also guides every creative decision process in there, because there's going to be a lot of questions that you have to answer as a filmmaker, as a director. Everybody comes to you with questions, and if you don't know the purpose of your story, in which everything, your characters, your places, and the plot all comes from, you won't have answers to those questions. And I've been caught in that trap too, because I'm like, I forget what the purpose is
Right.
of
Right.
the film is, and then I forget, like, okay, what is the importance of the conflict, and like, why is this symbolic of a location, and why do I have this person have this desire? And then the actor will come up to you with the question of like, okay, so why this? Essentially, the purpose is the why. So you
Right.
have to be able to answer that question for everything that you do. And sometimes music videos, it's like, it just looks cool. But when it comes to telling a story, it has to go a little bit beyond that. Yes, sure, it can look cool, but what is it doing? Why is it there?
Right.
That's a big question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, and it's funny that we talk about commercials because we're so inundated by them. Storytelling principles certainly do apply. Purpose is really the big question there when it comes to commercials because in the end, the reason you create a commercial is to sell stuff. To have people want to buy your products or your services or feel good about your brand, and that brings me to like the first thing that popped in my head recently was that can also be a bit of a trap because like if we take the recent example of the Pepsi commercial that Kendall Jenner starred in and like the protest and there if you think about like the why was like, okay, we want to sell more Pepsi, we want Pepsi to be associated as like this amazing brand that that people feel is either revolutionary or bringing people together or just we want to associate all these feelings. Their why got really too conflated into this like higher level why that goes beyond just soda water, right? And they try to really in the story of the commercial I think they got a little too big for their britches, so to speak. They kind of went beyond like what is we all know is just it's a soft drink, it's soda water, it's not that good for you, and they try to take it to this like higher level of human struggle and accomplishment, and I think that's when they're reaching too high, right? Like you got to stop at a certain level because if you go beyond, then your story is actually going to turn on you, right? You're going to be telling the wrong story for your why. And I think that's a perfect example where they were like, oh yeah, we'll go big with this. And it's like, be careful. You need to, the structure of the story needs to suit the purpose of the story. And if they don't match, people are gonna know it and you're gonna feel it. And that was, I think, a great example of that happening recently to a pretty major, company with advertising dollars and advertising agencies that got it wrong.
Exactly. And then like the viewer is just like, like
Yeah.
a lot of like less controversial examples of it would be like your reaction would just be like, okay, that was interesting, but I'm not more connected to the brand in
Right.
such as a result.
Yeah.
of
A lot of
it,
people
or-
are just outright offended. Like, what are you
Yeah, exactly.
doing? Like, this stuff really matters to me, and you're trying to associate your brand with it. So it's like you got responses all over. Some people were just like, that was weird, and other people were like just angry. They're like, that
Yeah,
made me
not
angry.
do
You
that.
had such a bad mismatch. So it was a really so it's a really good point that you're making there. These 4 Ps really do need to work together, and if you're not connecting on one of them, it's gonna the whole thing's gonna suffer. Okay, so we are obviously tight for time here, so I really appreciate you going into this stuff. I have one question that's relevant to our viewers. We are very much in the live production space, live video, telling stories. We're trying to make our episodes like this one more. We're trying to use the principles of story even in broadcasts like this. We want our live episodes to have a beginning, a middle, an end. We want people to be able to feel like I don't know if conflict's the right word, but that there's a goal and that we're going through an arc here. And so we are trying to take some of these principles and pulling them into this sort of different space where it's harder to necessarily construct a traditional story in the way that a filmmaker might. But do you see any keys here from the storytelling, like when you're doing live events? Are there any things, I think people is really important, your characters, even in your live broadcasts, whether it's you or somebody else, that makes a lot of sense to me. Your place, where are you setting it, right? We have the studio, we're setting the look of things. That's a big deal. We want to tell a story just through our images and our visuals for people tuning into this live stream, right? Just like you are there with the wonderful yellow background and the good lighting, like that's really important. Your content, right, which would be our third P, which is the plot, right, I guess is what we're trying to teach. Are we doing it well? Are we structured? Is there one thing building on another? That makes sense to me. Where do you, and then I guess final P is the purpose, but it is interesting that it would be the same but still be a little bit different when it comes to something like this live stream. You can kind of take these general principles and still pull them into different spaces. On the surface, I might have said, like if you'd asked me a few months ago, like, does good storytelling matter? Like good storytelling principles matter on live broadcasts? I would have been like, I don't think so. I mean, that's mostly for books and movies, right? But it's not true. It's any medium you're telling any information in, right?
Yeah, it's about connecting with people, and it's communication. And can you put those 4 Ps up again, actually?
Yeah.
So people could kind of follow along. So okay, let's do a little exercise with live production. So people are your talent. You're an on-screen talent, and they have to be unique, of course, to engage. And also, it's good in order to cover their desire as well, and that kind of engages us with them. So it still applies, understanding like what they want to do, what they're set out to do. Maybe there isn't the same kind of conflict, but we'll get to that in a second. And places doesn't mean just the studio. It means the visuals that create the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So with live streaming, you create places with what visuals you're showing along with the people, which is the face. And that way that you could create more engagement and more relation to the story, develop the story through B-roll, for example, cutaways. You could say in this situation, this interviews, I think would flow a bit differently from this example, but showing like the story and heart teasers as examples, and even these titles that come around, it's kind of sets the stage and environment and communicates and is a symbol, right? And then when you get to plot, well, you could set up in a live broadcast and ask. And maybe it's not the same kind of conflict with a bunch of barriers. In a live stream, I don't think you want to create barriers, but you want to lead up to enlightening the viewer with something, their takeaway, which then also goes to purpose. So what is the purpose of a live stream? You got to know that first, of course, and that will help guide your plot of like, okay, how do we lead to satisfying that purpose? And for a live stream, you don't want to like keep on like dilly-dallying before you actually divulge the answer to the question. It's like that answer it keeps on being given, and then culminates into kind of the ending and climax, which is the kind of the punch. You could summarize it. You could put it into actionable things that a person could do, for example, if it's a instructional live cast. So I think that these 4Ps still are very applicable to live streams, even though it just feels like, hey, let's just sit in front of the camera and talking. You can constantly think about these for any form of communicating through media, really.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, so we need to go, because we are way over time here. We need to get into our lightning round here. No worries. So, all right, you ready? We're going to ask you some quick questions. I kind of stole lightning round from Paul over PTC Optics. I like the idea. Ask rapid fire questions, and we can get just quick answers from you. Okay, so favorite camera or cameras?
Anything that is easy and not in the way of telling stories. One is a C100 because it has everything that you need. It has built-in ND filters, autofocus, blah, 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 and it looks amazing. Has audio, professional audio as well. I also like more compact mirrorless cameras like the A7S Mark II. It is amazing. It has a lot of bang for your buck right there.
Nice.
Okay, sorry, rambling.
No, great. Good tips. Favorite microphones?
Favorite microphones, I personally use Rode. I like the NTG series for shotgun, and actually I also use Sennheiser wireless mics. I love the transmitters from Rode. They're so easy to use, but I think I prefer Sennheisers and Countryman for the mics themselves.
Nice. Countryman are great mics. That's what we're using here. Favorite editing program?
Premiere Pro. Gotta love it. Started on Premiere Pro, went to Final Cut, then changed back to Premiere Pro. Gotta love it. It's I can never get Avid or Final Cut X. It's just so much more intuitive for me.
Well, you gotta stick with what you know.
Yep.
Favorite movie or movies?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question, but I'll go to my default, which is Empire Strikes Back. There is so much conflict there. All the 4Ps are all over the place. Explosion of the 4Ps. Okay, anyway.
That's a good answer. Solid. Safe answer for the most part, unless you're Trekkies out there. Favorite director or directors?
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll start with Steven Spielberg, and then George Lucas is more of a storyteller, as much as you will talk trash about the prequels, but overall a great storyteller. And also Christopher Nolan. I just love his stories and how he tells them. The 4Ps on overdrive there.
Yeah.
Inception. You could do a whole 4Ps study on Inception. It is just all over the place there. Yeah,
just really good.
Watch your movies again and think of the 4Ps, and you just dive in right there.
Nice. All right. Favorite TV show or shows?
I could probably comment on what I'm watching right now that I love, and that's Marco Polo. It's amazing. It's slow to get into, and it's a little Game of Thronesy in terms of gratuitousness, but it is very engaging. It keeps me grabbed in, even though there are some slow.
Yeah, I think I watched season 1 right through, and then I haven't tuned in. Is season 2 out for that one?
Yeah, season 2 is out. Yeah, and
nice.
it gets crazier. I'm on a pretty crazy part right now. I won't give anything away.
Tune back and check that out. All right, and finally, that finishes our quick questions. Thanks for the answers playing along there. NAB, you guys are going to be out at NAB this year as well. So there's a lot going on, and I was hoping to spend a little more time on this. We may have to cut this short just because we're so over time anyway. But tell us what you guys are doing out at NAB. I know you're partnering with Atomos. You're going to be doing something special in their booth.
It's absolutely insane. So we have 3 things going on. We're part of the Atomos booth. We have our own booth as well. I'll try to keep this 1-minute pitch. And then we actually have a film that is being shot and produced right in front of you at the Atomos booth. We have 4 set pieces right there. And you get to see a bunch of our expert filmmakers who teach on our platform making a movie right there. We also have presentations like a lot of booths have, but we have a lot of people divulging a lot of great information, just like our Academy platform. And we have hands-on. You can actually go hands-on with the actual equipment that makes the films as well, the actual film in front of you. There's just so much going on that you could just spend your entire NAB trip at the Atmos/Story and Heart booth. It's kind of one-in-one. It's like, I think we have 50% of that huge booth. So I'm very excited about that. So please visit us. I'll be running around like crazy. You probably won't see me, but you're going to see so much, that you could walk away with.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are going to, from what I understand, workshops. You guys are going to be doing these multiple sets, filming an actual movie in front of people with directors, with, cinematographers, and then who are going to be available to answer questions and things like that. It's as hands-on as you can get at NAB. Learning.
It's going to be amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that'll be NAB April 24th to the 27th in the Atmos booth. And then I think the booth numbers were there, but we should repeat those just real fast. Yes. So Atmos booth C8925 and C9425. So is Atmos in 2 locations?
Yeah, they're actually right next to each other. So you go down an aisle, and then left and right, you're surrounded with awesomeness.
That's going to be cool. All right. And then the Story and Heart booth at C1 Central Hall, looks like 11619. Rad.
Yeah. So just around the corner.
Yeah.
From the Atmos booth.
Well, I always love Central Hall because you do see these film sets. It's cool. You can go around and test out cameras, and there's even like live people just kind of standing there pretending not to see you as models or actors. It's really fun to do that. So one of the fun things I like about NAB is that sort of strange sort of menagerie of just cool stuff to look at and cool cameras to test and like real world lighting and set environments. So it's gonna be cool. I'm gonna definitely stop by if I have time. I want to check out what you guys have got going on there. For those of you who have more curiosity about what Michael and Story and Heart are doing you should head over to storyandheart.com and check all that out there. And of course, visit us at NAB in Las Vegas, end of the month, if you're going to be out there. That's going to be fun. Michael, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And I know we went way long, but there was a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So hopefully this was useful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey,
I
my
really
pleasure,
appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah. And then just looking at the audio, a lot of people were very pleased to listen to some of the stuff that you were talking about. And Michael, Packerson, Hay, and Gunnar, they're all tuning in here. Steve has a comment on the audio. Steve, we'll look into that. I'm wondering that myself, if there's a mono to stereo problem happening, but we'll check that out. And I just want to thank you for your time, Michael. Thank you so much. We'll definitely see you. I'll see you at the end of the month.
Yeah,
maybe.
See you at
maybe you'll
NAB.
be running around too fast for me to find you.
Maybe you'll stop me.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time, man. Thanks so much, and appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
See you guys next time.
All right, you guys. So that is our show for today. We are going to wrap that up. That was hopefully useful for you. It went a bit longer. We promised to try to keep these to a half an hour where possible. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way, but that's okay. This is good stuff. Michael was teaching us all about the 4 P's and pillars of story, and it's very, very important stuff that I think applies, as we were saying, in any medium. And then there's, of course, all other things that we can talk about, like 360 storytelling, 360 VR, and live storytelling, things. So you have any tips or tricks yourself or resources that you like that help you tell better stories, please leave a comment or tweet at us at Wirecast. I would love to learn and see those. And if you were curious and you want to subscribe, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any of those locations. We post all these episodes to YouTube, Wirecast Tube, for you to watch at your leisure and share out if you know other people that want to watch them. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors for the show. We could not do this without our partners. Filmmaking and live streaming is definitely a collaborative event and space. So we work with everybody from AJA to Black Magic Design, Magewell Capture Cards, New Blue Effects. The prompter people provide our lovely prompter, PTZ Optics, and of course, Wowza Media Systems, all very crucial to what we do here at Telestream to bring you this show. I'm Andrew Haley. I will see you next week when we bring on special guest Imry Halevi and talk about how Harvard Athletics streams their live sports. Thank you so much. If you are curious to learn, stick around for the learning session. I will be back in a moment after this, and we will be talking all about how to create thumbnails for your live video streams and projects and social media. So quick tip tutorial, and that wraps our show for today. Thanks.